This is the Master Brewers Podcast, brought to you by the Master Brewers Association of the Americas, a volunteer organization dedicated to continually improving the products and processes of our membership since 1887.
Okay, let's go!
Master Brewers brings you interviews with the industry's best and brightest in brewing science, technology, and operations. Welcome to the Master Brewers Podcast. I'm John Bryce, and here with me is my colleague, friend, and co-host, Mark Sammartino. Today, Mark and I are joined by Susan Welch of Skagit Valley Malting and Katy Orr of Sierra Nevada. Susan and Katy, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, John.
Now, you ladies are at the helm of the Higher Education Advisory Board. Could you take a minute to describe this board, its purpose, and how all this got started?
Yeah, Katy, I'll take that one.
Okay, great.
The Higher Education Committee Advisory Board started about 2 years ago after the National Master Brewers meeting. It came about because several of the members of both actually MBAA and ASBC at that time realized that there were lots of academic programs popping up all over the country that were spanning from certificate programs to four-year programs and everything in between and around. The idea that group of people had was to create a sort of standard around the expectations for the outcomes that those schools were presenting to their programs. In the beginning, that advisory committee had the sort of scope of purpose was to come up with guidelines that we could make available to those institutions. But over the last couple of years, the scope has grown.
Okay, so this is actually a joint effort between the Master Brewers and the ASBC. So can you tell me a little bit about everybody's role and who's on the advisory committee, how did they get there, and your expectations in the short term?
So the advisory committee was originally, and some of the same members, most of them are still on. Alex Spears, at that time of Harriet Watts, was, I think, the actually nascent voice that sort of called out the concern or the opportunity that the brewing community through MBAA and ASBC had to have input from sort of the actual industry into what these programs could and should make available for their students. Certainly at that time, there was it was becoming very obvious that as the brewing industry was growing by leaps and bounds, that there would surely be a shortage of trained people at all levels of the industry. So a lot of these programs were very welcomed and were growing and popping up in places where there happened to be very strong brewing communities. So the idea was fantastic. I think what we as a joint community between the MBAA and the ASBC thought was that together we could reach out back to our communities, come up with the wish list and what we would expect as an industry of new students and as well of the institutions themselves. So the advisory committee is made up of Alex Spears, Peter Buchert from New Belgium, Jill Sanchez from Sierra Nevada, Tom Shellhammer from OSU, Charlie Bamforth from UC Davis, Toby Eppart from Miller Coors, and Katy, am I forgetting anybody?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So they were the brain trust sort of to get this moving. And really, as I said before, the first task was to sort of wrap our arms around what, as an industry and as an existing academic sort of core, what advice would we give to programs about what content and what structure their programs should have in order to meet the needs of the brewing industry in North America in particular.
That's great. Katy, while the BA isn't directly involved in this initiative, it's my understanding from conversations I've had with their leadership that the BA fully supports this and feels that the industry badly needs it. Could you tell us more about why this program is so badly needed? How many of these schools are you seeing popping up? Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing.
Yes, absolutely. So the BA, they've been really supportive to us, especially Susan and I were at the World Brewing Congress in Denver, and a few of their members came up to us and said that they thought we were doing a great thing, and they're really supportive. They were posting in the BA bulletin the announcement of this committee. So it's been a really good kind of conversation going on so far. In terms of the need, Susan, I'm kind of paraphrasing what Susan has said to me before, but it's from the educational side. They want students to know about what they're doing and get a voice out there and get recognition from the MBAA. You also have the Brewers are looking to hire students coming out of these programs who are actually going to be able to do what the program says that they can do. And then there's students who are looking for programs that are reputable. And maybe there are long waiting lists for different types of programs. So this is, if there's something that fits your need as a student and is closer to you geographically, well, then this is a way for us to give those people that information. So there's 3 different interested parties who are going to benefit.
Okay. Susan, what's your message to the institutions out there that are considering developing a curriculum targeted at the brewing industry right now?
I think my message is that we, as an MBAA, want to help. We want to be a part of the development of your program in ways that make sense. And I think the 2 ways that makes sense, at least right now, is through this pathway to recognition, where we can provide you with not only the sort of final outcome of recognition, but the guidelines along the way. And secondly, just to become a member of the bigger brewing community. I think what I've learned through this process in the 2 years, or what we've learned, is that there's a great deal of goodwill within the MBAA membership for the institutions that are creating these programs. There's a great deal of desire to help. And in as much as MBAA has its mission to educate the industry, I think that also extends to assisting the institutions that are coming up with programs to train our employees.
Great.
Cool. And Katy, when you look at students and the students that are considering the pursuit of formal education in brewing, what should they look for, and what message would they take away from this evaluation process?
That's a really good question. So Susan had this wonderful idea that we would create kind of a spreadsheet or some sort of column and some sort of table where it's like, I am looking to become a brewing technician, and I am looking for a program that offers this type of assistantship or whatever. And we would have kind of a matrix available on the MBA website. Now, this is probably a year out, but a student could really kind of pick and choose a program based on what it offers. The most important thing for us is that eventually, once this gets going, we can have these programs listed on our website as recognized, and then potentially put underneath where the programs have their students placed. What breweries have they been placed in? Because that really is for the MBAA. The stamp of approval of a program really is the amount of people who are hiring from that program. We have very established programs already in the United States. And so for people to get that ground going, they need to start getting their students into breweries.
The other part that I would add to that, Katy, that's a perfect answer. Yeah. I think is a lot of these programs are from community college certificate degrees all the way up to UC Davis. A lot of these programs have additional services that they're actually bringing to the brewing community, to the local brewing community, whether it be a pilot brew house or a special lab or a great library. That's another sort of synergy that we see between the colleges and the MBAA. Or I should say the industry, not the MBAA.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. Well, I guess final question here. Susan, could you give us a little bit more information about the timeline for applications, where folks can go to find out more information and that sort of thing?
Absolutely. The deadline for the first round of applications is September 30th. It's a one-page application. That is sort of I should call it a pre-application. It sort of lets us know that you will be submitting your full application by the deadline, which I believe is November 15th. That full application is something that should not be too terribly onerous for any institution. It's primarily gathering documents and answering questions that pertain to how you intend to meet the guidelines and achieve the learning outcomes. So September 30th deadline for the one-page application. I think it's November 15th for the final. They can be found online at the MBAA website under the Education tab. And the first round should close by the end of the year. Next, we will then open it up for what we're calling sort of rolling applications. The second round will not have deadlines per se. It'll be done on as the applications come in.
Great. Awesome. Well, you heard it here, folks. If you are with an institution that's looking to get involved or find out more about what the industry wants out of its students, or if you're a student looking for opportunities in the industry, head on over to mbaa.com and click on the Education tab. Scroll down to diplomas and certificate programs, and all this information and more will be right there for you. Susan and Katy, thanks for taking time out of your day to speak with us about this exciting program. Wish you guys the best, and talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Join us next week for episode 6, in which Leo Chan chats with us about automated yeast cell counting, fluorescence-based methods that produce optimized results in products with high residuals, and his current quest to find a better way to count Brettanomyces.
Any products that have like residual samples, a lot of trope, or they add a lot of fruit particles in there, it becomes very complex medium, then using a two fluorescence method would probably be more beneficial, so that in the bright field you don't count these non-specific particles as debris that skews your results.
Just like that one day when we came around then, since there's that one thing that I should have